Gospel of John. It's your own time you wasted. I'm going to start reading. John 1 says this. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through it all might believe. He himself was not the light, he came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognise him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, or of human decision, or of a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him. He cried out, saying, "This is the one I spoke about when I said, he who comes after me has surpassed me, because he was before me." Out of his fullness we have all received grace in place of grace already given. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who himself is God and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made him known. Now this was John's testimony. When the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was, he did not fail to confess, but confessed freely, "I am not the Messiah." They asked him, "Then who are you? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I'm not." "Are you a prophet?" He said, "No." Finally they said, "Who are you? Give us an answer to take back to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" John replied in the words of Isaiah the prophet, "I am the voice of one calling in the wilderness, make straight the way for the Lord." Now the Pharisees who'd been sent questioned him, "Why then do you baptize if you're not the Messiah, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" "I baptize with water," John replied, "but among you stands one you do not know. He is the one who comes after me, the straps of whose sandals I'm not worthy to untie." This all happened at Bethany, on the other side of the Jordan, where John was baptizing. Pray with me before we dive into this. Jesus, we are so grateful that you have shone light into the darkness. And Lord, I pray that as we look into this particular passage, but as we look at you over this series, I want to pray that you would absolutely capture our hearts, Lord Jesus. We want to be made more like you, Jesus. We want for you to shape us and change us, that you would get all the glory. Amen. Amen. So we start a new series. We're looking at the Gospel of John. And what we're looking at is, the Gospel of John is a biography about the life of Jesus. There's 4 biographies in the New Testament, and this is written by the guy who people believe was Jesus' best friend when he was on this planet. This was Jesus' best mate, and some of the stuff he has to say is outrageous. It's fantastic. And the John that he's talking about in this passage, though, is John the Baptist. And I want to look at John the Baptist today specifically about how John the Baptist, his reputation changed massively when Jesus came on the scene. I just want to make a statement. Right? I hate computers. Can't stand them. I'm rubbish at them. Like 40 years ago, I had the option at school to do computer studies. I thought, nah, it's never going to catch on. From then on, me and computers have gone in different directions. It's like I get to the point where I feel like I understand how to use a computer and then they upgrade it. It's then obsolete. It's so frustrating. And this AI, artificial intelligence, where's that going? I've seen Terminator. This does not end well. If you, in fact, you ask Arnold Schwarzenegger, do you like computers? He says, I still love Mr. Baby. I actually don't even understand what that joke means, but I know you see, John came along. John was like, he was an A-lister. He was like, I want to talk about the humility of John. But he was a public figure. When I was this time last year actually, we was with Mel in France. We was invited to take part in a Christian Surfers Conference at a place called Cossegor in France, near Biarritz. And they are world-class waves. And I like surfing, I enjoy surfing. But they were too good for me. They were too big for me. When I did eventually get in and catch a couple of waves, or try and catch a couple of waves, there was these little grommets that were just kept nipping in front of me and getting the waves and stuff, and I was absolutely humbled. That used to be me, people. And now these little ones are going in and making me look stupid. I've been upgraded. I'm paddling out there like on Burgundy, I'm kind of a big deal. And I'm absolutely humiliated. John the Baptist was on the scene. Everyone loved him. It says this, it says in Matthew 3, it says that people went out to him from Jerusalem and all Judea and the whole region of the Jordan. Just let that sink in. That whole area went out to see John the Baptist because he was preaching so radically, with such passion, he was baptizing people, he was causing such a stir. The Roman historian Josephus names him as one who was popularly known at the time. The Romans took notice of him. He was an A-lister. He was in all the papers, all the town was talking about him. And now the religious leaders are taking interest in him. Because he started baptizing people. Like baptism was always part of like the Jewish kind of worship. They would consecrate priests with water. And if someone was unclean, they would clean them with water. And at this time in history, they started to baptize people who were coming to faith in Israel, to the Jewish faith. But John the Baptist, he was baptizing the good guys. He was baptizing everybody. He was baptizing the Jews that recognized that they were filthy before the Lord. So that the Jewish leaders came out to ask him these questions. You see, John was absolutely content to take second place to Jesus. This main event character was very happy to become the supporting role and point to Jesus. He says this later on in John 3:30, he says this, he must become greater, I must become less. And this guy that had enjoyed the attention and the focus and the fame was so happy to use that position of influence to point to him. And we surely must want that. If we are followers of Jesus, that is evidence of the Spirit living in us. When we don't want any longer to have our name on a plaque or a statue about us or a book written about us, we just want people to see him. Now let's see how he came about that. Who was it that John the Baptist compared himself to. Second point, comparison. It's like, who was it that he orbited his life around? Who was it that was at the centre of his life? We went over the summer, we met up with the Owen family. And we went fishing, we had a lovely time, we went back to his sister's house and had fish and chips. And in the garden, they got a big garden, and they got a football pitch there, and we were playing football in the back garden. Well, I say we, my grandson Moses was playing, and the girls were playing, and Dad was a good goalie, that's what he said, but he is quite a unit, and let's say, there's not a lot of goal behind that body when he's there. But we were playing in the garden, and little 9-year-old Ezra was playing. Oh my goodness! He's like a ginger pillar. He's flying at 9 years old. He's playing better than I have ever played in my whole life. Totally humiliating. If I compare myself to Ezra, I am hanging up my boots and I'm never playing again. Forget walking football. I'm never going near a football again. You see, we have football for everyone. But the only thing we ain't got football for yet is for pets. But we've got it for old people, young people, women, kids. John compared himself. He was unafraid to compare himself to one that was far, far better than himself. He compared himself to the one who was perfect. He compared himself to Jesus. The only comparison, the only one that he orbited his life around was Jesus. Because when we start comparing ourselves to other people, it gets confusing, it gets messed up. We can kind of jury-rig the whole bunch system. And pride creeps in. And it becomes when you haven't got your life orbiting around Jesus, then even mundane things become weird and twisted. And it may be you have a good job and you earn lots of money. But if you're talking to, say you earn £1 million a year, and then you're at a dinner party, and then someone sat next to you earns £1.5 million a year. Now, if you ain't got your life orbiting around Jesus, you can start comparing yourself with them, and you just kind of, there's something rises up in you, there's a pride in you that becomes much better. Maybe you walk into the boxing club and you're a bit tasty. And you go in there, and there's people that are better than you. They're stronger than you. You go into the gym and you're lifting up these weights, and you go with your mate, and you don't care how much you can lift, as long as you can beat him. You see, in all manners of life, this pride that arises on Jesus, this pride. You don't just. The danger is you cannot just sort of get a girlfriend because you love that person. You can get that girl because you just want to prove that you can get him other than your mate. It becomes so twisted. It becomes so messed up. And as Carl was saying earlier, we like that in church. We can think our righteousness before God, our standing before God, it's measured by, am I better than the person next to me? Do I pray more? Do I read more of my Bible? Am I seen to be doing this, that, and the other? If our righteousness, standing before a holy God, is, well, I'm better than him, is that really the ground you're going to be stood on? When the judgment comes, you don't. You want your righteousness from the one that is entirely righteous. The Bible is very true. When we orient our life around Jesus, we want to know what the Bible says, and the Bible tells us the truth. The Bible says that I am hopelessly broken. And listen, the gospel is not for good people. The gospel is not for nice people. If you think the message, the good news of Jesus is that he's come for people that have already sorted themselves out, you're mistaken. God has come for those that know they need help. God's the chief of sinners. We're in competition. Listen, none of us are here because because we're good people. None of us are here standing before God because of what we've earned. We are before God because we've admitted that we'll never reach it. John was absolutely happy to compare his life with Jesus and to focus on Jesus alone. There's a verse in Romans 3:23. Paul says this, he says, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." When we compare ourselves with other people, we can feel good about ourselves. I compare myself to Hitler and I feel pretty good. When I compare myself to the glory of God incarnate, God walking this planet, I fall so far short on every single level. George Whitefield was a preacher in the 1700s. He's a bit of a hero of mine. He was around at the time of the Wesleys, and he was in conflict with people who got into print or making all these accusations about him. His friends are saying, you should write back, you should sort of, defend yourself. And George Whitefield said this, he said, "I'm content to wait till judgment day for the clearing up of my reputation." He said, "And after I'm dead, I desire no other epitaph than this. Here lies George Whitefield, what sort of man is the great day? We'll discover." How liberating. How free to know that you haven't got to keep up with the Joneses or be the best player or be the one that gives the most money or this, that and the other. We come and our righteousness comes as a gift from God. John the Baptist's reputation was willingly given to Jesus because he's worthy of it all. He's worth it all. It's like when you see the moon, the only time we ever see the moon of any significance is because it's reflecting the light of the sun. John the Baptist was happy to be the reflection of the sun. He was absolutely content. He was content for people to see that he belonged to Jesus. That it was in him. He was content for people to see him as his alone and none other. And practically, really concretely, how do you feel? This is how you deal with things, when people kind of move you down in their perspective. When people that once respected you now overlook you. Maybe you have, some kind of wet behind the ear graduate turned up in your office and you mentored them through and now they've been promoted, and now they're your bosses. This is how you deal with it. Maybe there's been a boy fancying you at college, and you've kept your integrity, and you've not kind of let yourself go. You've kept your standards, and they've moved on to another girl that hasn't got those standards. It's hard. That's hard. How do you deal with it? You deal with this. That great game we discovered. We are living for the audience of one. We ain't trying to please anyone else. We're trying to please Him. There's no one else that matters. There's no one else that we want to compare ourselves to. And how did John learn this? How did he even look at Jesus? How come he looked at Jesus and he wasn't crushed? Thinking, I'm never going to get there. Well, finally, it's Jesus' example. See, Jesus' humility is unsurpassed. He's not asking anything of us that he hasn't already done himself in space. I'm just going to read a couple of verses that we read earlier on. It says that the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. This is Jesus, the Word. This is God incarnate, became flesh. He put on skin. He became a man on this planet. John says this, he says, a man comes after me, A man who comes after me has surpassed me because he was before me. Just think about that. He's saying that Jesus has always been. Christ has from eternity past. He's always been, and now he's in front of us, here. Jesus left the glories of God's presence. Jesus left the throne room of heaven. He left the worship of adoring spiritual beings. He left the golden throne rooms and all the joys and unsurpassed, untainted beauty. He leapt over the parapet of heaven and came down on his planet. He stuck his toe, got dirt under his fingernails. He lived a normal life amongst the mess of the sin. No one has done anything as humble as this. Whenever we sacrifice something, whenever we sacrifice our reputation and our pride, when we give anything to God, it's because He has modelled it to perfection. There's no one been slighted as much as Jesus. There's no one been patronised as much as Jesus. There's no one been overlooked or offended as much as Jesus. And yet He comes and allows them to nail Him to the cross. So we're free. He doesn't want us to stay kind of beating each other up and trying to win. He comes so that we can have life and life to the full. When we read about Jesus, and I'll finish with this, when we read about Jesus encountering people in the Gospel, you see that they change forever. They change immediately. As soon as they realise who He is, they change. If you're here today, you know that you're following the wrong path, or you're the wrong God, or the wrong philosophy. Change direction immediately. Don't think, well, I've got to put this in place, or I've got to do that, or I've got this conversation, I've got this, that, and the other, and then I'll come back next week and I'll get it sorted. Do it now. Sort all that stuff out afterwards. Change direction. Change your heart's direction immediately. If you know that you're in darkness, and you know that you don't know the light of Jesus, come blink into the light this morning. There is mercy. There is mercy. You ain't got to sort yourself out. You ain't got to clean yourself up. You come to God and allow Him to lift your sin for you. He's signed now. And let's pray. Let's pray. Oh Jesus, I do thank you for so many kind of great examples in the life of John the Baptist and others who were so content to see your name lifted high and theirs just fade away. Jesus, I want to pray, and I do thank you for the skills and the gifts and the talents in this room. Oh Lord, I do pray that you would use every single one of them for your glory. For your glory. Lord, but we say corporately, we are content to let that fade away, that people could see you, oh God. Who else is worthy like you? Who else would come down from heaven? Who else would take on our sin but you? You alone are worthy. You've always been good. You are pure. And Lord, I want to pray that we would live. We'd be a church marked by the sacrifices that we make, not because we have our arms twisted up our back, but because we see you and cannot help but give it all. We love you, Jesus. Help us with this series. Help us to see you better. Amen.
At the end of the service, I just want to once again plug the prayer meeting tonight, 7 o'clock at Old Ford Methodist Church, because that is actually the beating heart of church, where we get an opportunity to worship once again, come into God's presence, and just do business with God. So at 7 o'clock at Old Ford Methodist. That is the end of the service. I want to encourage you, teas and coffees are going to be out there, and please do stick around, chat to people, especially if you're new to Eastern Church.